So now we had a look at Puck and at handlebars, two possible templating engines you can use. And if you plan on using them, definitely dive deeper into their docs. Now I want to show you my favorite and the templating engine we'll use for the rest of this course. And that is EJS. Now, EJS is a templating engine, which is just like Puck, supported out of the box. So we don't need to register the engine as we did it with handlebars. We can remove that. We can therefore also get rid of that handlebars import. And here, we just set the view engine to EJS now. Now, EJS has a very nice syntax in my opinion, and has a nice mixture of the extended functionalities of Puck, so not regarding the HTML, but regarding the JavaScript code you can use in your templates, that you can do things like that simple comparison here in shop Puck file. This comparison here with the if statement, which we couldn't do in handlebars, that is again possible with EJS. And this is the nice thing I like about it. And still it uses normal HTML, just like handlebars, which I personally also like. But of course you can follow along in this course with any solution. I will stick to EJS though, and all source code will therefore be provided with that templating engine. So let's use it then. And let's start with the good old 404 page again. I'll add my 404.ejs file. And now in there, let's start with the HTML code again, and let's copy that into that file here. So all the 404 HTML code, let's move it in there. Get rid of that active class, which still incorrectly is there. And now we got this set up. Now, EJS does not support layouts, but we will find a solution to at least have some kind of reusability of certain building blocks. But for now, let's just create the whole document in that file. So this is now our page. And let's start with the title again, and let's output that dynamically. Now in handlebars, we used double curly braces. In Puck, we used hashtag and then single curly braces. In EJS, we use a smaller than sign and then a percentage sign. And then if we just want to output a value in the place we're placing this placeholder, we add an equal sign right after the percentage sign. And then we close this with just a percentage sign and a greater than sign. So this is the syntax. And now here we can output the data which our template receives. And just as before, the method of how we receive that hasn't changed. So we can still output page title here, just as before. So just to bring this back in memory, in app.js, we're passing in that page title here, and therefore we can reference page title in our template. So this will still work, and with that, we can already test this. If I now save this and I reload here, I get an error for add product because we got no EJS template for that yet. But if I enter anything else which is not found, we do indeed see our not found page rendered through EJS. So this is now working, and with that, let's move on to add product. Let's add the add-product.ejs file here. And in this file, again, I'll just copy in my add product HTML code. Here, I also want to output the title dynamically though. So again, our syntax here, which we used just a second ago, let's output the page title here. And then the rest can stay as it is for now. Now, the more interesting part is the shop file, because there we also need an if statement and a loop. So let's add our shop.ejs file. And in that shop.ejs file here, let's copy in the HTML code we got here for the shop. And let's make sure we also take that new image here. So let's copy that from one of the other files. And then move over to shop.ejs and replace that here. And with that, now let's remove these comments again so that this is part of our page. Let's remove that part up there. And now in this file, we can, of course, again, simply output our title equals page title as we did it before. But the more interesting part are obviously the if statement and our loop. So we want to output this grid here only if we do have some products. Now, an if statement is placed a bit differently than with handlebars. We still use our smaller than percentage sign syntax, but not an equal sign, because we don't directly output a value here in this place. Instead, we want to enclose, we want to wrap a certain block of code. And we do this by adding our opening and closing EJS tags, you could say, like this. And now in there, and that's the cool thing, you can write vanilla JavaScript code. Now, we know that we will get in our shop route here, we will get a prods key, which holds our products array. And this will be an, well, array. And therefore here, what we can do is we can write a normal JavaScript if statement. So normal JavaScript code, and that is really important. And simply say prods length greater 0. And if that is the case, I want to render this. So thereafter, after this grid, I also close this. And now here important, you simply close the curly brace, which you also have to open here at the beginning. So in the end, what you do is you write a normal if statement as you would write it in a JavaScript file. Just that the part inside of that statement is not JavaScript code, but this HTML code. And I find this to be very straightforward and easy to understand. So this is our if statement here with the opening curly brace. And once we're done, we close that curly brace. Now, we can, of course, then also combine this and add an else block here, just as we would do it in normal JavaScript again. And eventually, once we're done, also close that. And now here, we can output our h1 tag where we say no products found. Now, that is nice. Let's see that in action by saving and by now going to the shop page. And indeed, we got no products found. If I now do add a product on add product here, first book, we do see it here. So the if statement is working. Now again, of course, we want to loop through all the products and output our data. And for that, again, we use the same logic as with the if statement. We create simply the normal JavaScript code we would use for looping. And there are multiple ways of doing that. We could use prods for each, to use this for each function, vanilla JavaScript supports. Or we use a normal for loop. We could say for let product of prods, and then we simply open a curly brace, wrap all the content that should be repeated, and once we're done, we add another EJS tag where we close that curly brace, again using normal JavaScript. And then we have our product in there, and now we can again output it as before with this EJS equal syntax, as I like to call it here, basically this inline output syntax. And now with that, if I reload this page here, we see object. That is my mistake. Obviously, we want to access product title because product indeed is our object. So now we see the title. This is EJS, and I prefer this syntax because I like having that flexibility of being able to write some JavaScript code in the template whilst having a clean syntax that nicely mixes with HTML, because I personally like using HTML instead of the minimal version Pug offers us. But as I mentioned, you can go with any approach you like.